Chapter 409, Court Meeting of the Four Kingdoms. Is Wu Dao in a good mood? Su Yingxue narrowed her eyes slightly. Although Saint Wan had only encountered Wu Dao twice, she found this enigmatic person unlikely to be so bored. Saint Wan crossed his legs and curled his lips uncomfortably. "I'm a poison doctor. How would one know about such matters? But one do recall your mother mentioning it to me when we met. She was working on a method, though I'm unsure if it was successful." "What method was my mother researching?" At the mention of Long Shuli, Su Yingxue's eyes lit up. "How should one know?" Saint Wan rolled his eyes. "Back then, she mentioned it cryptically, fearing that I might attract trouble. She didn't disclose much." Although he had investigated and suspected Long Shuli was developing a poison, he lacked evidence. Long Shuli, with her profound knowledge and a heart as intricate as a seven-holed exquisite jade, seemed to understand everything. If she chose to be mysterious, he couldn't fathom what she was up to. However, whenever she needed assistance, he willingly lent a hand. Su Yingxue's knowledge about her mother's affairs was fragmented and scattered. To uncover the truth behind her mother's death, she needed to engage with Wu Dao and delve into the mysteries surrounding him. Observing Su Yingxue's expression, Saint Wan playfully remarked, "Su Yingxue, are you considering provoking Wu Dao?" Pursing her lips, Su Yingxue replied, "Considering the current situation, he's the one targeting me. Liu Shulan knows nothing about medicine. He's responsible for poisoning my father. Moreover, the circumstances leading her to find Saint Wan and perform the surgery for her father were likely within Wu Dao's expectations." Every appearance of Wu Dao heightened the unease. To resolve this, she had to take the initiative. Upon hearing these words, Saint Wan felt like dragging her away quickly. "I'm telling you, no one dares to oppose Wu Dao, not even an emperor of the 4 countries and 9 provinces. The only outcome is death, with incalculable consequences. Don't get into trouble. This is beyond my control. Besides, my mother's death is not something Wu Dao can dictate." Su Yingxue touched her nose. In her second chance at life, she had to take charge. Although Saint Wan vehemently opposed it, seeing Su Yingxue's expression resembling Long Shuli's left him with no grounds to object. He sighed and shrugged helplessly. "If you want to meet Wu Dao, you'll have an opportunity soon." "What opportunity is coming?" Su Yingxue inquired. "The court meeting of the 4 kingdoms is hosted by the great Cheng dynasty this year, and the Silver Moon Pavilion master must attend." Saint Wan crossed his arms, blinking with a hint of charm. The court meeting of the 4 countries, Su Yingxue recalled. In her previous life, her reputation was tarnished, and Su Dingheng and Liu Shulan never informed her about attending the court meeting. Instead, they confined her within the Marquis Manor. After the court session, when she finally went out, she discovered the events that transpired in those few days. At that time, she was still mocked by a few noble ladies, saying that she was a shameful thing and did not even know about the grand event that happened once every 4 years. From that moment, her sense of inferiority intensified. Su Yingxue narrowed her eyes. "Then I'll wait for Wu Dao at this court session." Su Yingxue had been studying her medical skills, and Chu Yihan had arrived before the court session. Chapter 410, Cheap Daddy. He came with the imperial edict, and Su Yingxue was originally about to kneel to hear the decree. However, Chu Yihan promptly helped her up and placed the imperial edict in her hands. "Read it yourself. There's no need to kneel. Isn't this inappropriate?" Su Yingxue glanced at the 2 court officials behind Chu Yihan, who had come with him to announce the decree. Seeing Chu Yihan hand the edict directly to her, Su Yingxue couldn't help but feel uneasy. As expected, the expressions of the 2 officials were notably grim, and they dared not express anger or objection. In an attempt to relieve them from Chu Yihan's imposing aura, Su Yingxue opened the edict and skimmed through it. She raised her eyebrows slightly. "The emperor wants me to oversee the reception of envoys from the 4 countries. Chu Yihan added, "You'll be accompanying me. Although this isn't something you've done before, I'm here, so you don't need to worry about a thing." Chu Yihan shook Su Yingxue's hand, providing an overwhelming sense of security and protection. This made Su Yingxue feel somewhat embarrassed. "Well then, This time I'll rely on your highness to earn me some rewards in front of the emperor. She playfully smiled, and Chu Yihan pinched her cheek. After the banter between them, Su Yingxue understood the meaning of the imperial edict. One of the officials spoke. Miss Su is talented and capable. She will surely handle this matter well. I will report back to the emperor. Su Yingxue nodded politely. Thank you. Without the elevated status of Chu Yihan, she couldn't afford to be too arrogant. However, when she turned around, she noticed Su Dingheng still kneeling obediently behind her. Possibly intimidated by Chu Yihan's imposing presence, he didn't dare to move even without a command. Yet, he was still her father. Su Yingxue tugged at Chu Yihan and reminded him, my father is still kneeling. Chu Yihan's cold gaze shifted to Su Dingheng. Get up. Su Dingheng stood up shakily and bowed. Thank you, Your Highness. If there's nothing else that Your Highness requires today, I have matters to discuss with Su Yingxue. If you have no other business, you may take your leave. Chu Yihan was already quite polite, considering Su Yingxue's presence. Su Dingheng looked at Su Yingxue with a slightly aggrieved expression, clearly reluctant to leave her. Su Yingxue felt a headache coming on. Since her father's surgery, he had been acting unusually. He depended on her, making a fuss the moment he woke up, demanding to see her. If he couldn't, he would throw a tantrum like a child. Su Yingxue had no choice but to coax him. Father, go back first. I'll send the medicine over for you later. Su Dingheng's eye seemed afraid that Chu Yihan would take Su Yingxue away. He was particularly attached to her. However, he couldn't even meet Chu Yihan's gaze, so he left in embarrassment. Chu Yihan noticed Su Yingxue's tone when speaking to Su Dingheng, and his eyes showed displeasure. Are you this gentle to everyone now? His uniqueness had disappeared. Su Yingxue was momentarily stunned before reaching out to poke him. Could you be jealous? He is my father. Although he's a bit hateful, he's still my father. I remember that he didn't treat you well. For so many years, you relied on the old general's affection. Chu Yihan's eyes expressed a hint of pain for her. Indeed, the bond between father and daughter could not be severed, but he didn't want Su Yingxue to forgive the person who had wronged her. Your Highness is overthinking. I saved him, but it has nothing to do with the father-daughter relationship. I did it solely to preserve the Marquis Manor's reputation. With grandfather and brother at the border, one hold the Marquis Manor authority. Liu Shulan has recently passed away. If rumors spread that this Marquis has mistreated its heir, the Marquis of Arshal South's manor will become a laughingstock. Chapter 4:11. She's going to marry me. Su Yingxue's gaze remained firm. The Marquis Manor had been built through the hard work of several generations of the Su family. Her mother had also lived in the Marquis Manor for many years, presumably developing a strong attachment to it. For the sake of her mother and grandfather, Su Dingheng, she had to ensure that he lived well. Moreover, allowing him to live with guilt towards her mother would bring her a sense of satisfaction. The light in her eyes was truly captivating. Chu Yihan leaned over and kissed her eyes gently. He whispered into her ear as softly as a feather, my men have sent news. Old General Su has finished his business at the border. He can return to court now. Grandfather? Su Yingxue's eyes lit up. What she felt the most guilty about was watching her grandfather die in front of her, but she was unable to save her. She was even accused of causing her grandfather's death. After she was reborn, she immediately wanted to see her grandfather. However, her grandfather was guarding the border, so she couldn't go and look for him recklessly. In her previous life, her grandfather only returned to the imperial court 2 years later. At that time, she was already in a bad state, causing her grandfather great distress. In this life, why did her grandfather come back early? Her puzzled gaze fell on Chu Yihan's fairy-like face. What did you do this time? Chu Yihan looked calm. Old General Su is old, and the border needs to be handed over to a young general. I've chosen a suitable person. After Old General Su completes the handover, he can return to Jiangdu City. Su Yingxue's heart jumped excitedly, and she couldn't help but hug Chu Yihan. Your Highness, you're the best. I miss my grandfather so much. If one can see him soon, I'll ask Grandpa to hold a banquet to thank you. Just a banquet to thank me? Chu Yihan's expression was filled with dissatisfaction. What else does your highness want? Whatever you want to do, I'll do it for you. Su Yingxue beamed. She had completely forgotten that Chu Yihan had asked her who would decide on the marriage. She had said that she needed her grandfather's approval. Now, Chu Yihan had sent old General Su back to the court in advance. He leaned over to Su Yingxue's ear and gently touched her soft earlobe with his lips. What one want to do is to marry you. A blush crept up Su Yingxue's earlobe and gradually spread to her face. Together with the excitement in her heart, it burned her originally fair face red. This was the first time she ran away shyly in front of Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan had engraved her in his heart for 13 years, and she wanted to fulfill the joke she made when she was 3 years old. Did she devote herself to him? Although she was too excited to know that her grandfather was coming back, Su Yingxue still calmly handled her current tasks. After visiting the residence and the clinic, Su Yingxue brought Xilan to Qinghe Palace. This was the place where the emperor received envoys. Logically speaking, the envoys of other countries would be arranged to stay in the post house when they entered Jiangdu city. However, the court meeting held once every 4 years was different. Not only would people from the 4 countries and 9 provinces come, but the various forces of the Silver Moon Pavilion would also come. Chu Mingyuan had raised the treatment given to the people of the various countries and allowed them to stay in the palace. After Su Yingxue received the imperial edict to receive the envoy, she had to make some arrangements in the palace. She could guess that Chu Mingyuan had not asked her to receive the envoy for her good, but she had to be careful. She could not let Chu Mingyuan know that she had already seen through his intentions. She walked around the clinic and arrived at Qinghe Palace afternoon. The manager of Qinghe Palace was a steady nanny named Jing Fang. When she heard that Su Yingxue had arrived, she especially came out to welcome her. The two of them exchanged pleasantries for a while before Jing Fang smiled very modestly. Miss Su has been chosen by the emperor. You came to the palace early. The palace will only send someone to clean up tomorrow. Chapter 4:12. The transformed Yurou. Su Yingxue wanted to appear attentive and caring. She smiled and said, I have never been to the palace before, and receiving envoys is a significant task. I appreciate Aunt's guidance. Jing Fang, being a prudent woman, replied, Miss, you are a capable person, and such matters will naturally be handled without errors. After praising Su Yingxue, Jing Fang continued to commend another person, Miss, with your outstanding abilities, even your younger sister is meticulous. She arrived early this morning, claiming that you had long been considerate, so she came ahead of time to arrange everything for you. She has visited all the areas where the envoys stay in the palace and has been patiently waiting here to report to you. My sister. Su Yingxue couldn't help but frown. Looking up, she saw Su Yurou approaching. Su Yurou was not as meticulously dressed as usual, wearing a simple white dress and minimal jewelry. She greeted Su Yingxue politely. Sister, I already explored the palace and even drew a map for you to familiarize yourself. She presented the map immediately. A hint of displeasure flashed in Su Yingxue's eyes. In the future, there's no need for such extra efforts. Aunt Jing Fang will guide me through the palace. You don't need to be overly involved. After being reprimanded, Su Yurou naturally wore an aggrieved expression. Jing Fang, who saw her first, couldn't help but console her. Miss Yurou is well-intentioned. However, Miss Su is clever. With or without this map, you will quickly become familiar with the palace. Su Yurou covered her lips with a handkerchief and sobbed, Yes, sister is right. It's my fault. I will unquestionably follow all of sister's instructions in the future. Su Yingxue breathed a sigh of relief. Su Yurou really made things difficult for her. She had delayed it until now, intending to be diligent yet seemingly nonchalant. She was impressive. She arrived early, completed all the tasks, and even drew a map. Surely, Jing Fang had other intentions engraved in her heart. Soon, both the emperor and empress would be aware. She had to be even more careful when it came to receiving envoys. After bidding farewell to Jing Fang, Su Yingxue took Su Yurou back to the residence. Su Yurou came in her own car, naturally not sharing the same vehicle as Su Yingxue. However, when Su Yingxue saw how Su Yurou got into the car decisively and remained silent after being treated coldly, she felt puzzled. In the car, she asked Jilan, "What's going on with Su Yurou recently?" Jilan shook her head. "Nothing unusual. 2 days ago, she was still crying for Aunt Liu. Previously, she was sent back by the 7th prince and even caused a scene at the 7th prince's residence. However, she didn't enter the mansion, so I didn't inquire. Today, I was negligent." She looked apologetic. However, Su Yingxue's gaze turned cold. "No, it was my carelessness." She hadn't paid attention to Su Yurou these past few days. Firstly, she wanted her to face rejection a few more times, to break her spirit, to make her understand that she was a motherless good-for-nothing. No one would sympathize with her, returning the same humiliation from her previous life. She had achieved her goal, and Su Yurou indeed caused quite a scene. However, she suddenly had such thoughts and disrupted her plan as soon as she arrived. This was truly puzzling. Who was advising her? Moreover, she had detected a scent of blood on Su Yurou just now. She was dressed plainly today, wanting to show off her generous and decent appearance, so she did not use much perfume on her body. When she approached slightly, she smelled something unusual. Who had Su Yurou met recently? Chapter 413. The person behind Su Yurou returned to Sunset Court and secluded herself, not even summoning Yuan Ruo to attend to her. She wasn't surprised by Wu Dao's sudden appearance in the room. She walked forward with red eyes and asked, "When can one avenge my mother? When can I kill Su Yingxue?" "I will provide you with an opportunity," Wu Dao replied briefly, extending his hand to her. "What I desire, you should give." With a sense of fear, Su Yurou reluctantly reached out her hand. Due to excessive blood loss, her skin revealed veins and blood vessels, a ghastly sight. However, when she thought of her mother's tragic death, she could only watch helplessly as Su Yingxue ordered people to carry her mother's lifeless body out. There was nothing she could do. After the agony, she collapsed by the bedside, dazed and weakened. In her vulnerability, she harbored an intense hatred. Su Yingxue, one will make you pay. Since the previous day, Su Yingxue had instructed Jilan to keep Su Yurou under watch, forbidding her from going out or having contact with anyone. She also had to monitor the activities in her courtyard. She visited Chengye Palace more often, and Aunt Jingfang developed a favorable impression of her. Once, Aunt Jingfang inquired about why Su Yurou hadn't returned. Su Yingxue smiled without a word, her expression stern. Jingfang apologized and refrained from further questions. Despite Su Yurou being Su Yingxue's younger sister, Su Yingxue was the designated female envoy responsible for receiving female members of the envoys. Others shouldn't interfere. Originally, envoys from various countries were scheduled to enter Jiangdu City 5 days later, but 1 or 2 deviated from the rules. On this day, before Su Yingxue arrived at Chengye Palace, Aunt Jingfang sent someone to inform her that the Princess of Qi State had arrived and urged her to go quickly. When Su Yingxue met Aunt Jingfang in the palace, she naturally asked, "Why did the Princess of Qi State arrive today? Wasn't there a plan to welcome her outside the city before entering the palace?" Aunt Jingfang's expression turned serious. "This Princess of Qi State isn't easy to get along with. She's only 20 years old, but her power in Qi State is already formidable. The King of Qi State honors her as the eldest princess. Not only is she feared by everyone in Qi State, but even in political matters, the King of Qi State consults her before making decisions. Dealing with such a powerful woman might prove difficult." As the one overseeing Chengye Palace, Aunt Jingfang was naturally ordered to gather information about the envoys. To maintain discretion, Su Yingxue listened quietly. However, the information she gathered suggested that this Princess of Qi State possessed capabilities far beyond the ordinary. Talented in both literature and martial arts, proficient in riding and archery, and possessing extraordinary medical skills, she was the foremost person in the Qi State. The King of Qi probably didn't expect that despite having many sons, they couldn't match the capabilities of his daughter. This woman was truly outstanding. When Su Yingxue and Aunt Jingfang went to pay their respects to the princess of Qi State, she had already settled in the opulent perching Phoenix Palace. Two maidservants with extraordinary auras, one named Yundan and the other Feng Qing, stood guard outside her palace. When Su Yingxue and Aunt Jingfang arrived, the maidservant named Feng Qing said indifferently, "The princess is tired from the long journey and is currently resting. Please wait for 2 hours before paying your respects." Aunt Jingfang, being a servant, didn't mind. Glancing at Su Yingxue, she suggested, "Miss Su, why not rest first and come back in 2 hours? One will wait here." Su Yingxue remained silent. Originally not planning to leave, waiting for 2 hours was inconsequential. She could use this time to read her mother's letter in Medicine King's Valley. Whether the eldest princess punishes me or not, what does it have to do with you? Feng Qing gritted her teeth and endured the pain. She wished she could break both of Su Yingxue's hands right now. Isn't the eldest princess resting? One will do it for her. Now I'm also going to rest. If the eldest princess arises, one trust both of you to adhere to the proper protocol and inform me. After Su Yingxue smiled faintly, she turned around and left. Yundan and Feng Qing's eyes were filled with dissatisfaction towards Su Yingxue, but they were tactful enough not to make a sound. Feng Qing was helped to Han Yuwen's side to complain. From within the light gauze curtain, the woman's clear and graceful voice came out with a sneer. "You're already so useless after coming to the great Cheng dynasty?" Feng Qing bit her lip. "Princess, in Qi State, no one has ever dared to treat me like this and even broke my hand. If this was in Qi State, she would already be dead." Han Yuwen didn't feel sorry for her at all. Instead, his tone was filled with admiration for Su Yingxue. "Since she dared to break your hand, she's not afraid of me. You can't keep your hand because you're not capable. Get out of here and don't embarrass me." Chapter 415, Wei Is Gone. Feng Qing's face instantly reddened as she knelt to beg for forgiveness. "Yes, I deserve to die." Yundan helped her out with treatment. The afternoon sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating a pair of fair and delicate hands. She gently moved her fingers, and the sunlight danced on her fingertips with nimble grace. Her lips, resembling cherry blossoms, curved slightly. Su Yingxue should be an interesting woman. Su Yingxue found a side hall and delved into her mother's handwritten letters, reading more about Qi State. 2 hours later, Aunt Jingfang came to find her and conveyed, "The eldest princess mentioned feeling tired and won't be seeing Miss today." Su Yingxue nodded. "All right, I'll come again tomorrow. Miss has worked hard." "The eldest princess has a temper, but Miss need not take it to heart," Aunt Jingfang advised. Su Yingxue smiled. "There's nothing to be angry about if I don't seek revenge. However, there's something I must remind Aunt about." Aunt Jingfang looked at her seriously. "What's the matter?" "Treating this princess too well is not advisable. Don't give her special treatment just because she's the eldest princess of Qi State. The treatment given to her should have been the same as what the emperor gave to envoys from various countries. It was essential to ensure absolute fairness." Su Yingxue's eyes sparkled. Aunt Jingfang hesitated. "But historically, various countries have given preferential treatment to this eldest princess, fearing to offend her." She recalled an incident when the eldest princess traveled the 9 regions, a noble showed disrespect, and that person later died a gruesome death, with not even a trace of his remain. What other countries do is unrelated to us. Our actions represent the great Cheng dynasty's face and national prestige. As a great country, why should we imitate the small 9 regions countries? The emperor governs the world, and the 9th prince battles to make the great Cheng dynasty mighty, not to seek favor. Su Yingxue's words were majestic, earning silent admiration from Aunt Jingfang. "Miss is indeed worthy of being the daughter of a family of generals. Your insights are profound. One know what to do and will not tarnish the face of our great Cheng dynasty." Aunt Jingfang nodded with a smile. After Su Yingxue nodded, she returned to the Marquise Manor. When she attacked Feng Qing today, Wei didn't appear, and she didn't sense his aura. Therefore, the moment she returned, She started to call out, Ziwei? Ziwei. Ziwei didn't appear, and she didn't even sense his aura. Ziwei had been by her side for so long. Others might not sense it, but there was a special tacit understanding between her and Ziwei. She could feel Ziwei's presence. But now, she couldn't feel it anymore. Su Yingxue's brows furrowed. She searched the courtyard once and asked Jilan to pay attention to Ziwei's tracks. She rushed to the clinic, but Manager Qi did not see Ziwei. Su Yingxue thought of the poison in his body. She had been busy with her matters during this period and had forgotten to detoxify Ziwei. She grabbed a handful of medicinal herbs and rushed out. She had walked quite a distance when she remembered something and quickly turned back to buy a bag of sweets on the street. She remembered that when Ziwei's sword was broken, he had once gone to a place to forge a steel knife. She went to the place he mentioned, where the knife was forged. There were few people here, and the only blacksmith shop was closed. She wandered around the entrance of the blacksmith shop for a while before jumping over the wall. She landed in the courtyard and shouted, Ziwei. Fortunately, she had shouted. Otherwise, the knife behind her would have pierced through her body. Chapter 4:16. She knew he needed candy. Ziwei quickly sheathed his sword when he saw Su Yingxue. However, he couldn't control himself and ended up half kneeling on the ground, his hand gripping the sword trembling. Su Yingxue promptly helped him lie down, her face filled with guilt. I'm sorry, I forgot to prepare the medicine for you. Why didn't you remind me? She was both anxious and frustrated. Anxious because any delay on her part would mean that Ziwei would endure a prolonged period of pain. Frustrated because she had forgotten, and, to her surprise, Ziwei had forgotten too. Could he not pay attention to his well-being? Ziwei had been tormented by pain for a long time, and his ability to endure pain had long surpassed that of ordinary people by 100 times. Even now, when the poison in his body acted up, there was no pain on his face, but more indifference. He simply didn't care. He was indifferent to the life and death of others, as well as his own. It seemed like death, for him, was as routine as eating and drinking every day. He faced it with extraordinary calmness. However, his indifference cut deep into Su Yingxue. She felt guilty. It's my fault. One brought you to my side but failed to take proper care of you. Ziwei's pale lips moved, and his voice, raspy and emotionless, declared, it's me, protecting you. He never required anyone's care. You protect me, and one protect you. One haven't paid you, but the rightful protection is a must. It's my responsibility. Su Yingxue's gaze was resolute. With each word she spoke, Ziwei's heart thumped fiercely. Su Yingxue. Ziwei called her name hoarsely. Su Yingxue kept her eyes on the medicine, not bothering to look up. What's the matter? She could sense Ziwei's gaze on her, but she was more concerned with the medicine she was brewing. Once the medicine was ready, Su Yingxue looked up at Ziwei. His eyes were cold, like a tranquil spring without a single ripple. Ziwei remained silent. Su Yingxue picked up the bowl of medicine and fed him as usual. Ziwei had become accustomed to being cared for by Su Yingxue, behaving as obediently as a doll. After downing the bowl of medicine, Su Yingxue noticed his cold expression and promptly stuffed a piece of candy into his mouth. His face underwent an instant transformation, a hint of gentleness emerging amidst his bloodthirsty features. Even though this touch of tenderness vanished too quickly, Su Yingxue couldn't help but grin happily. Waving the candy packet in front of Ziwei, she slyly remarked, if you promise me one thing, I'll give you all of these. She knew Ziwei had a sweet tooth. Despite being the top assassin in the martial arts world, his fondness for candy created a stark contrast. Nonetheless, Su Yingxue wanted to use it as leverage against him. After all, if it worked, that would be enough. Ziwei's eyes held a trace of desire as he hoarsely inquired, what? In the future, you must not allow yourself to be poisoned. 2 days before the poison takes effect, you must remind me, no matter where 1 a.m. or what I'm doing, even if I'm asleep. You have to wake me up to make medicine for you, understood? Su Yingxue coaxed him as if dealing with a child. However, Ziwei flatly refused. No. Su Yingxue was speechless. Did you have to reject so decisively? Couldn't you have thought about it for a moment? This is for the sake of your health. Seeing her inability to persuade him, Su Yingxue decided to take a more assertive approach, pointing at him. Wei, let me tell you. You must tell me 2 days before the poison takes effect. Otherwise, 111 chase you away, and you're not allowed to come near me again. Su Yingxue placed her hands on her hips, exuding an air of authority. She was worried that she wouldn't be able to intimidate Wei, and she had a few more threatening words in mind. However, when she suddenly looked at Wei, the only light in his eyes had vanished. It was as if a towering mountain had collapsed. Chapter 417. The Princess Medical Skills. Wei gradually lowered his head, tightly clutching his fists, and a loose strand of long hair veiled the expression in his eyes. Su Yingxue couldn't discern his face clearly, but she seemed to sense that her previous words were too much. She squatted down and patted his hand. I said that for your good. You're stubborn. What if one can't remember to detoxify you next time, and something happens to you? Nothing, Wei replied coldly. What do you mean nothing happened? The poison in you hasn't been completely cured. If I didn't cure you in time, you would have lost your life. This is a big deal. Your indifference toward yourself makes me feel guilty. Su Yingxue's energetic eyes dimmed. I kidnapped you from the Silver Moon Pavilion so that you could live well, whether to protect me or yourself. If you were to lose your life, what would be the point? Su Yingxue's gentle gaze held a ripple of emotion. Wei felt a warmth in his heart. His voice, perpetually hoarse and tainted by poison, replied, It's fine. I can endure it. Everything is fine, why must you endure it? You have something to do. Wei gazed at her with determination. He wouldn't allow himself to disturb her when she was busy. He wouldn't leave her for any moment he could be by her side. This time, he only needed to find a place to quietly endure the effects of the poison before returning to her side. However, he didn't expect her to come looking for him just like that. Wei, I'm sorry. This time, it was my negligence. In the future, one will remember. Su Yingxue rubbed his face. You're mine. One kidnapped you here, so I have to be responsible for you until the end. She spoke heroically as if this were just a responsibility and a mission to be completed. She didn't realize that she had pried open an iceberg and released a weak flame from it. This small flame had already gradually ignited. Wei was unwilling to return to Marquise Manor, so Su Yingxue stayed in the blacksmith shop to accompany him. After drinking the medicine and temporarily suppressing the poison, his face returned to normal. He looked at the girl who was sleeping soundly beside him. He reached out his finger and gently tapped her forehead. As a killing machine, he had been emotionless for many years. But now, he had a determination, something that he wanted to protect. Su Yingxue. He stared at her with a determined gaze. I live for you. Su Yingxue brought back Wei and returned to Qinghe Palace to handle some matters. She asked Aunt Jingfang if the eldest princess of Qi State had any instructions for today. Aunt Jingfang said, when the eldest princess saw that we did not treat her well, she was not angry. Yesterday, I was worried that she would lose her temper after Miss hit her servant girl. However, when I went to deliver breakfast today, the eldest princess did not give any instructions. If Miss is free now, why not follow me to meet the eldest princess? After all, she is one of the envoys. We cannot neglect her. Su Yingxue nodded. We should go. She went to the perching Phoenix Palace with Aunt Jingfang. The door was still guarded by the 2 maidservants. When Fengqing saw her, her eyes almost popped out. Su Yingxue had a gentle smile on her face as she sized up Fengqing's arm that was hanging in the air. The technique is exquisite. It seems that the eldest princess medical skills are extraordinary. Yundan's gaze shifted to her. Why do you think it's the princess medical skills? Chapter 418. Overreached. Su Yingxue's eyes curved slightly. I saw Miss Yundan's medical skills yesterday. In comparison, the princess is naturally better. You. Yundan's eyes were filled with caution. Su Yingxue was young, but she had keen eyes and was very meticulous. She could even observe such small details. Feng Qing hadn't taken revenge for her broken hand, so she looked at Su Yingxue coldly. "You're here to visit the princess. Why do you have to talk so much? What does the princess' medical skills have to do with you?" "Miss Feng Qing, Miss Su is a female envoy. Please speak politely," Aunt Jingfang couldn't help but say. "So what if she's a female envoy? What's the difference between you and a servant? When you see our princess, shouldn't you be respectful?" Feng Qing was arrogant. She was used to being arrogant in Qi State and did not care if she was in another country. "I do have to be respectful to the princess because she is an envoy, but to a servant girl who speaks arrogantly, there is no need." Su Yingxue had a smile on her face, but her eyes were filled with coldness. "What do you want?" Feng Qing had just asked when she was surrounded by palace guards. "Princess, in the Great Cheng dynasty, servants who offend their superiors will be punished. It's the same for the princess maidservants," Su Yingxue said loudly to the tightly shut door. There was no sound coming from inside, so Su Yingxue ordered palace guards to press Feng Qing on the stool and prepare to hit her. Yundan frowned. "Miss Su, Feng Qing is the princess person. It's not up to you to punish her. She is the princess woman, but if she insults me, then she is insulting the female envoy who receives the envoy and also insulting the Great Cheng dynasty. Just based on this point, the Great Cheng dynasty will have to teach her what is national prestige." Su Yingxue waved her hand and ordered her men to take action. Bang! The foot-thick board hit Feng Qing's body. Feng Qing stared at her in disbelief. "You! How dare you hit me?" She had never been beaten up in Qi State. Su Yingxue's expression did not change. "Continue." The sound of the board hitting was incessant, and Feng Qing continued to curse. Aunt Jingfang was a little worried. "Miss Su, it's fine to hit her a few times to teach her a lesson. After all, she's the eldest princess person. If you offend eldest princess and she reports it to the emperor, I'm afraid it won't be easy to explain. She is in the wrong. If she were to report this to the emperor, would the emperor allow others to insult the Great Cheng dynasty?" Su Yingxue's voice was sonorous and powerful. She said it for Aunt Jingfang to hear and also for the people in the Perching Phoenix Palace to hear. But unfortunately, she hit Feng Qing 30 times, but there was no sound from inside. Su Yingxue saw Feng Qing lying in a pool of blood and said indifferently, "It seems that the princess is resting. I can't visit the princess today. When the princess wants to see me, I will come to visit the princess again." After saying that, she led Aunt Jingfang away. Yundan supported Feng Qing, who suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. "Su Yingxue, just you wait." Yundan helped her into the Perching Phoenix Palace. Han Yuwen had been listening to the commotion outside but did not make a sound. She saw Feng Qing being helped in, covered in blood. She was disgusted. "You've followed me for so long, but you're so useless. Princess, that Su Yingxue is relying on the fact that this is a palace and there are many people here. Even if Feng Qing wants to resist, I'm afraid she won't be a match for her," Yundan explained to her. Feng Qing's eyes were filled with hatred. "Princess, one don't dare to resist. After all, this is the palace. I'll embarrass you. You know that you will embarrass me, but you still want to go head-on with Su Yingxue? You know that you can't win against her." Chapter 419. Goodbye. Qin Muyan. Han Yuwen's voice was full of disdain. In front of her was a chessboard, and she was intricately playing a game of chess with her left and right hands. That was why she was too lazy to bother with what was happening outside. However, in her eyes, the beating of Feng Qing wasn't Su Yingxue's fault but rather Feng Qing's own doing. If Feng Qing had understood her identity from the beginning, realizing the vast difference between her and Su Yingxue, she wouldn't have allowed Su Yingxue to catch on to this weakness and deliver a harsh beating. Su Yingxue's actions not only solidified her authority but also portrayed a dignified image of the Great Cheng dynasty. It was a win-win situation, and it seemed right from any perspective. On the other hand, Feng Qing had made a wrong move from the beginning. Han Yuwen frowned disapprovingly. Go down and tend to your injuries. Feng Qing dared not utter a word in front of her. Yes, princess. It's all my fault. After Yun Dan assisted her down, she returned to Han Yuwen's side. She looked somewhat puzzled and asked, Princess, Feng Qing was beaten. Will the princess let Su Yingxue off so easily? As Han Yuwen placed a piece with her right hand, her left hand immediately followed with another. The black piece under her right hand was instantly surrounded by the white piece under her left hand. The right brain was lost to the left brain. She raised her head, and her glass-like eyes emitted a strange cold light. I won't let her off. It has nothing to do with others. I just can't stand people who dare to compare their wisdom with mine. As a modern medical doctor with extensive knowledge, transmigrating to this world, what right did this foolish, ignorant ancient woman have to compete with her? To be more outstanding than her? Impossible. Su Yingxue hadn't seen Han Yuwen, but she still needed to attend to other matters as the envoys from the Great Wei dynasty had arrived early. However, they weren't as exaggerated as Flan Yuwen, merely waiting in a corner of the palace to meet Su Yingxue. When Su Yingxue arrived, a figure in dark blue stood alone among the attendants. She had long understood that the people of the Great Wei dynasty were brave and good at fighting and had strong physiques. The followers brought by the Great Wei dynasty's Scarlet Flame King were all tall and muscular. Su Yingxue walked past them, looking especially petite. After walking past the dark blue figure, she bowed slightly. Su Yingxue from the Marquis of Marshall South's manor pays respects to the Scarlet Flame King. Qin Muyan, holding a thumb ring, raised his eyebrows upon hearing her voice. Your name is Su Yingxue. Are you from the Marquis of Marshall South's manor? Upon turning around, Su Yingxue was also taken aback. Weren't you in prison? She nearly slammed on the brakes, revealing that Qin Muyan was the prisoner. However, it was a misunderstanding. She quickly swallowed the second half of her sentence. She honestly answered Qin Muyan, 1 a.m. the legitimate daughter of the Marquis of Marshall South's manor and also the female envoy in charge of receiving the envoy. If your highness has any instructions, please let me know. Qin Muyan's handsome features relaxed as he broke into a smile. With the bloodline of the Great Wei dynasty royal family, he was tall and strong. His high nose bridge made his facial features especially three-dimensional. Approaching Su Yingxue, he noticed her petite stature. Even when she raised her head, it only reached his chest. The clear light in her eyes made her resemble the Persian cat his sister raised. She was too cute, prompting him to reach out and rub Su Yingxue's head. I had just arrived in Jiangdu City and wasn't very familiar with it. I wanted to invite you to accompany me for a walk. May I? Su Yingxue was inexplicably rubbed on the head, and she subconsciously stepped back. This is my duty. One will certainly make sure your highness understands Jiangdu City. However, your highness, there should be a proper distance between men and women. Please maintain decorum. Rubbing her head, this was not a good habit. Chapter 420. He wants to marry Su Yingxue. Qin Muyan glanced at his hand and laughed heartily. I couldn't resist just now. One apologize. She was genuinely cute, making it difficult for people not to get closer. Su Yingxue led Qin Muyan to his residence, and Qin Muyan didn't care much about the accommodations. He followed Su Yingxue's arrangements. However, when Su Yingxue mentioned a banquet in the palace, he shook his head, saying, I've never liked palace banquets. Miss Su, accompany me for a meal outside. Su Yingxue was left speechless. She hadn't anticipated that she would have to foot the bill for hosting the envoy. Considering Qin Muyan's previous wrongful treatment and the favor owed to her clinic, she took Qin Muyan to the largest restaurant in Jiangdu City, the Furong restaurant. Seated in a private room on the upper floor, Su Yingxue ordered a variety of specialty dishes to treat Qin Muyan. Qin Muyan opened a jar of wine, poured a bowl for himself, another for Su Yingxue, and raised the bowl, saying, Miss Su, I propose a toast. Su Yingxue felt a bit awkward. Your Highness, I don't drink. Please go ahead. Why? Qin Muyan finished his bowl of wine and looked at Su Yingxue curiously. Miss Su, you're both bold and cautious, and you exude a heroic aura. Why don't you drink? Because her alcohol tolerance wasn't good. Su Yingxue roared inwardly. What was wrong with this, Your Highness? Meeting for the second time, he took her out to dinner and expected her to drink with him. Were all men from the great Wei dynasty so bold and uncouth? However, being a noblewoman of the great Cheng dynasty, she couldn't be as audacious as Qin Muyan. She picked up her teacup and took a sip, whispering, "Women are not suited for drinking. Besides, my tolerance is low. In that case, one will drink alone." Qin Muyan's eyes revealed a hint of regret. This was the second time he had met Su Yingxue, but his feelings had intensified. He downed 3 more large bowls, and his handsome face was now slightly flushed. His voice became more resounding. "Miss Su, how old are you? Do you have any engagements?" "No." Su Yingxue replied indifferently. "Then, if I proposed to Miss Su, would you be willing to be my princess?" Qin Muyan seized Su Yingxue's hand and held it tightly. Upon hearing his words, Su Yingxue was shocked. She quickly shook off Qin Muyan's hand and stood 3 steps away. "Your Highness, you can't hold your liquor well, so please drink less. I'll have someone send you back." Qin Muyan stood up and pulled her against the wall. His pitch-black eyes resembled the boundless sky, and Su Yingxue could see her reflection. The scent of alcohol emanating from the man overwhelmed her senses. Su Yingxue subconsciously struggled. "Your Highness, please let me go. I want to marry you." Qin Muyan's eyes grew fervent. "Why? Your Highness, although we've met once before, we don't even know each other's names. Your Highness is being too childish." Su Yingxue was curious. In her 2 lifetimes, this was the first time she had encountered someone like Qin Muyan. If it were a commoner, it might be acceptable, but he was the dignified Your Highness of the great Wei dynasty. How could he be so reckless? She also sensed that Qin Muyan wasn't joking. He stared at her without saying a word, making her feel that he was disdainful. Su Yingxue tried to persuade him again. "Your Highness, please let me go. If you're drunk, I don't want to let go of you. The first time I saw you, I was certain that in this life, 111 only marry you as my princess." Qin Muyan exerted all his weight on her. His heart was beating violently. This was the second time he had felt this way. It was very intense. It was very real. The person he was looking for and wanted to marry was Su Yingxue. Chapter 421. His back view was so charming. When Su Yingxue heard this, she found it absurd. She took a deep breath. "Your Highness, are you sure you won't let go?" Qin Muyan didn't want to release her. He assumed Su Yingxue only knew medicine and was a delicate woman. To his surprise, Su Yingxue delivered a punch to his chest, causing a surge of blood and nearly making him spit it out. "You?" Qin Muyan looked at her incredulously. Su Yingxue's beautiful face remained cold. "Your Highness, as the one responsible for receiving the envoy, I should show respect. However, if the envoy goes too far, I won't tolerate it." Despite her delicate appearance, her personality was powerful, further earning Qin Muyan's admiration. Qin Muyan coughed lightly and said, "One was rough just now, but Miss Su, you may consider my proposal." "Thanks, but no need." Su Yingxue's face remained icy. She accompanied Qin Muyan for dinner, strolled around Jiangdu City for a while, and then escorted him back to the palace. During the journey, Qin Muyan brought up his proposal several times, but seeing that her expression was getting worse each time, he refrained from speaking further. Su Yingxue sent Qin Muyan off and left without hesitation. Qin Muyan stopped in the corridor, and his confidant, Wei Is Gone, asked, "Your Highness, are you interested in Miss Su?" Qin Muyan's eyes revealed longing. "No one has treated me like she has. I appreciate her straightforwardness and character." He felt even more that she was approachable. "But Your Highness has an engagement. Your future princess can only be the daughter of the princess," Wei Is Gone expressed concern. Qin Muyan smiled. "One haven't found aunt's daughter. Maybe she's Su Yingxue?" Wei Is Gone rubbed his nose, disagreeing with his master's perspective. Their princess had been missing for many years. Qin Muyan was rather unlucky. He had this marriage arranged before he was even born. Even the princess couldn't be found, let alone her daughter. Unfortunately, the imperial family of the Great Wei dynasty placed a high value on promises, and once a commitment was made, they were determined to honor it. Even if Qin Muyan never married a princess in this lifetime, he couldn't marry anyone other than the daughter of the princess. However, Your Highness had taken a liking to Su Yingxue. Wei Ju shook his head, not optimistic about his master's romantic prospects. After dealing with Qin Muyan, Su Yingxue suddenly missed Chu Yihan. Since their last discussion about marriage, she hadn't seen him for a long time. She thought she might encounter him when dealing with the envoys, but he hadn't even visited Chengye Palace. Su Yingxue prepared some medicine in the Marquise Manor and then headed to the 9th prince's mansion. Upon seeing her, the old steward of the prince's mansion smiled kindly. "Miss Su, it's been a while. We've missed you." Su Yingxue's smile was warm. Every time she came to the prince's mansion, it made her feel familiar. In the study, she found Chu Yihan. He was standing in front of a defense map with a straight posture. Su Yingxue sighed softly. Indeed, a charming man, even his back view had the power to captivate someone. He wore a black python-patterned robe, a belt cinching his slender waist, and his long legs encased in fabric. Every movement exuded an allure capable of driving unmarried girls crazy. Su Yingxue's heart couldn't help but race. She stood at the door, gazing at him in a trance. Chu Yihan finished marking the last spot on the map and set down his pen. His clear and cold voice carried an extreme magnetism. "Come in. There's wind at the door." Su Yingxue snapped back to reality. Oh. Chu Yihan couldn't possibly be unaware of her arrival. However, he knew that she wouldn't get in his way, so he focused on finishing his work. Su Yingxue approached him. Before she could speak, he held her hand. Chapter 422. Chu Yihan raises a tiger. Chu Yihan's expression showed a hint of displeasure. "It's so cold, why didn't you come inside?" Standing outside his door in the cold wind had chilled her hand. Su Yingxue smiled, revealing 2 shallow dimples on her cheeks. "One didn't dare disturb Your Highness, and one couldn't bear to shatter the picturesque scene," Su Yingxue thought. Chu Yihan's enchanting back view was too handsome. "What couldn't you bear?" Chu Yihan leaned over, rubbing his nose against her cheek. The distance between the two of them was instantly shortened. Su Yingxue was caught off guard and blushed. "No. Nothing. Liar." Chu Yihan's deep and magnetic voice resonated. Su Yingxue could only see the movement of his Adam's apple, the smooth skin of his collar, and the firm jawline. Her face felt like it was on fire. Before she could think of a response, Chu Yihan questioned her again. "Have you been drinking?" Su Yingxue was taken aback. "No. It was Scarlet Flame King who drank a bit." "Qin Muyan?" Chu Yihan's eyes emitted a dangerous aura. "Why did you drink with him?" "The Scarlet Flame King just arrived in Jiangdu City and didn't like the palace banquet, so one invited him to have a meal at the Furong restaurant." Su Yingxue honestly recounted the first part of the story, omitting Qin Muyan's proposal to her. "He's quite picky." Chu Yihan snorted disdainfully. "Tomorrow, I'll issue an order that the envoy must dine in the palace." Qin Muyan dared to let Su Yingxue treat him to a meal alone. How shameless. "Your Highness, don't be like this. If someone in the envoy team complains to the emperor will have something to say. There's no need for others to gossip." Su Yingxue quickly persuaded him. Chu Yihan didn't care at all. "It's fine." "It can't be fine. Your Highness, if you care a little, the emperor won't be able to target you or force you to get sick." A trace of heartache flashed across Su Yingxue's eyes. Chu Yihan's eyes were bloodshot, and he couldn't control himself. Just thinking about it made him tremble in fear. If he hurt others, he would also hurt himself. Chu Yihan's expression softened when he saw the worry on her face. He pinched her little face and said, "Okay, I promise you. Accompany me for a meal." "Your Highness hasn't had dinner at this hour?" Su Yingxue was shocked. Chu Yihan nodded. He was also responsible for receiving the envoys, but his mission was different. He had to collect information about the envoys entering each checkpoint and pay attention to the defense of each city at the border. The court meeting was a grand gathering of the 4 countries and 9 states, but it was also an opportunity for those with wild ambitions to take advantage of it. He wanted to end this kind of thing, so the daily collection and deployment left him very exhausted. Su Yingxue's heart ached when she saw that he was only eating at this hour. She even went to the kitchen to bring over the tonic she had prepared for him. After he finished eating, she watched him drink it. After Chu Yihan finished eating, he placed a soft couch in the garden pavilion. He hugged Su Yingxue and leaned against the couch, admiring the beautiful night view. Su Yingxue had never seen the garden of the prince's mansion properly. In the past, she only knew that Chu Yihan was extremely powerful. The 9th prince's mansion was also the most majestic place in the entire Jiangdu city, other than the imperial palace. But now, it seemed that not only did this garden have the majesty of the owner, but there were also all kinds of strange sights. Su Yingxue saw a tall mountain not far away and tilted her head. "Is this newly built by your highness?" "Yes, a tiger mountain." "Tiger mountain?" Su Yingxue's eyes lit up. "Has your highness raised tigers? Can I go and take a look?" "It's still on its way." Chapter 423. Qin Muyan's treat. Chu Yihan gently stroked her soft hair, his gaze involuntarily softening. "I've kept it at the border all this time. Recently, the caretakers mentioned that it seemed to have lost its appetite, perhaps missing me. So, I brought it to Jiangdu City." Su Yingxue couldn't help but chuckle. "Your Highness, your bond with a tiger runs deep. What's this? Are you feeling jealous?" Chu Yihan raised an eyebrow, hoping for an affirmative response. However, Su Yingxue shook her head. "One wouldn't dare. Tigers are the kings of beasts. What if it bites me?" Recalling the encounter with a lion on the hunting ground, she was still frightened. If not for Chu Yihan's timely arrival, she might have become the lion's prey. Such a massive pet could only be cared for and played with by Chu Yihan. "It wouldn't dare," Chu Yihan assured. Chu Yihan half leaned on the soft couch. "My woman, no one can touch her, and the same goes for it." Envoys from various regions arrived in Jiangdu City one after another. Su Yingxue busied herself with organizing their affairs, feeling overwhelmed. She allowed Aunt Jing Fang to arrange a room for her, settling in Qinghe Palace to save time. Su Yingxue had organized the attendance of an envoy from Beling and was preparing to join Chu Yihan in response to his invitation. The envoy from Beling said that he had asked someone to bring a chef from the Qi state to cook dishes for him. As she stepped out, Qin Muyan's imposing figure blocked her way. His resonant voice filled the air. "Miss Su, haven't had dinner yet? How about I treat you at Furong Restaurant?" Su Yingxue, not eager to encounter him, politely declined. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I have plans for tonight and can't dine with you." "Oh, who's the lucky one you're meeting? Is it your special someone?" Qin Muyan felt a slight sense of crisis. He made up his mind that, regardless of where Su Yingxue went that night, he would follow her. "It's not your concern, Your Highness," Su Yingxue remarked, giving Qin Muyan a disdainful look. As she lifted her foot to leave, Qin Muyan extended his hand to block the door. "If he were your sweetheart, one would have insisted on accompanying you." He sounded childlike, yet his physique and serious expression contradicted that. Su Yingxue found it odd. "Why must Your Highness follow me? I'm not married, and even if I have someone special, what does it have to do with you? Do you truly have someone special?" Qin Muyan's expression darkened, clenching his fists. Without disclosing her feelings, Su Yingxue pushed him out and continued. Jilan stood at the door. Seeing her approach, she spoke. "Miss, Your Highness sent Mochi earlier, mentioning he has prior commitments tonight. However, the prince's mansion's chef is ready. You can go whenever you like." Muttering to herself, Su Yingxue said, "He's not around, so why would I go to the prince's mansion alone?" Not finding it appealing, she decided to grab a casual meal. "Miss Su, did your sweetheart stand you up?" Qin Muyan, with a smile, once again blocked her path. None of your concern, Su Yingxue replied, growing impatient. Since your sweetheart stood you up, how about I treat you to a meal? It can be considered repaying last time's favor. I don't owe women anything. Qin Muyan displayed a magnanimous demeanor. He was tall and sturdy, and he had a pretty good face. He had a dignified and awe-inspiring appearance, and it was easy for him to attract young girls. However, Su Yingxue was not interested in him at all. As for why she would dine with him at Furong Restaurant, it was because Su Yingxue was in a bad mood and wanted to indulge in a hearty meal. Since Qin Muyan offered to treat her, why not? Chapter 424. Inexplicably booked out. When they arrived at Furong Restaurant, Qin Muyan confidently informed the proprietor, 111 reserve all the private wings upstairs. The proprietor, wearing a smile, replied, Sir, what a coincidence. All the private wings have already been booked today. If you don't mind, the private seats on the second floor are still available. Qin Muyan promptly placed 2 gold ingots on the table. Kindly ask the other customer to dine elsewhere. Eager at the sight of the gold, the proprietor hesitated to extend his hand. Sir, this customer. We can't afford to offend them. Perhaps you could consider the private seats. Qin Muyan was furious. He had never treated a girl to a meal before, and he didn't expect that he couldn't even book a wing today. Su Yingxue intervened, It doesn't matter where we eat. Your Highness, there's no need for such formality. A private seat by the window is available, and you can enjoy the outside scenery. Let's go there. She took the lead, sitting down, and Qin Muyan naturally followed suit. With an apologetic expression, Qin Muyan said, Unfortunately, today isn't ideal. Tomorrow, 111 reserve the entire Furong Restaurant and treat you to a full day. No need. After 2 nights' meal, I won't owe your Highness anything. Su Yingxue poured herself a cup of tea, holding it to warm her hands. Are you thinking about your sweetheart? Qin Muyan inquired as he observed her gazing out the window. Why did he break the appointment? Su Yingxue rolled her eyes, saying, pondering who reserved the entire Furong Restaurant today. Your Highness might not be aware, but in the past, it was against the rules to book the entire restaurant. There are dignitaries here daily, and booking the entire place would lead to trouble. Furong Restaurant established a rule against it. Not only were all the private rooms booked today, but even the proprietor seemed anxious. It indicated that the person who booked the place was extraordinary. If you're curious, I'll accompany you to take a look. Qin Muyan proposed after a sip of wine, offering a relaxed smile. Is your Highness just as unrestrained in the Great Wei dynasty? Su Yingxue was curious. In this person's eyes, it seemed like there was nothing he couldn't do. Qin Muyan poured another glass of wine. In life, it should be this way. Do what you want. Too many rules and etiquette feel like being locked in a cage. I've despised rules since one was young, never adhered to conventions, and followed my heart. Just as one like Miss Su, I propose to you. The conversation took an unexpected turn. Su Yingxue had wanted to express her admiration for his carefree attitude. Now, she choked on her tea, coughing twice. Life requires some rules. Your Highness, please refrain from mentioning marriage. If you don't like it, one won't bring it up. After the court session, I'll go to your house for a proposal. Qin Muyan finished a pot of wine. His eyebrows were full of grandeur. He did not like to be restrained. He was determined to marry the person he liked back in the Great Wei dynasty. Su Yingxue held her forehead, knowing she had made a mistake. She shouldn't have provoked a headstrong individual. This stubbornness, forget it. Your Highness, let's enjoy a good meal first. She digested slowly, fearing she would choke sooner or later if Qin Muyan continued. She ordered a table full of dishes, and in the company of someone like Qin Muyan, who didn't adhere to formalities, the atmosphere was relaxed. They enjoyed their meal wholeheartedly. Qin Muyan extended a warm invitation for her to join in drinking, and she couldn't resist indulging in a few glasses of wine. However, compared to Qin Muyan, their alcohol tolerance was like the difference between a pond and an ocean. Chapter 425. Coincidentally bumped into Chu Yihan after finishing 2 jars. Qin Muyan could continue to indulge in drinking, but Su Yingxue had reached her limit. She placed her wine cup down and said, "Your Highness, please enjoy your drink." While Qin Muyan knew about her poor tolerance for alcohol, he didn't force her. He continued to enjoy his drink alone. Qin Muyan asked Su Yingxue, "Miss Su, what kind of man do you like?" Su Yingxue, with one hand on the table and cupping her face, took a moment to think and said, "One like." Before she could finish, footsteps suddenly echoed from upstairs, indicating the arrival of someone significant. People on the first and second floors began to express their amazement. "This lady is so beautiful." "What lady?" "She is the eldest princess of Qi State." "No wonder. Anyone walking alongside our 9th prince must be a woman of high status. They look well matched." A cool breeze from the window interrupted Su Yingxue's reverie. She abruptly stood up and walked outside. Qin Muyan also put down his wine glass and followed her. With a crowd of onlookers, Su Yingxue tried to squeeze through to catch a glimpse. However, she stumbled and nearly fell. Qin Muyan quickly grabbed her arm, wrapped his arm around her waist, and pulled her into his embrace. With a voice carrying the fragrance of wine, he said, "Be careful." Su Yingxue was held steady by him. He even rubbed Su Yingxue's head with a doting gaze. "If you can't hold your liquor well, don't rush around. I will send you back." He was so gentle, as if he was treating the woman he loved. Standing on the stairs, Han Yuwen observed them with a natural air of arrogance. It seems the Scarlet Flame King and Miss Su are quite familiar. Qin Muyan looked up in surprise. It's the 9th prince and the eldest princess. What a coincidence. He was about to support Su Yingxue, but he felt a gust of wind coming at him. He quickly protected her. If Su Yingxue hadn't reacted quickly and pushed him away, he would have been like the table behind him. Bang! A loud crash filled the air as the table shattered into pieces. Qin Muyan's anger surged. Why did the 9th prince suddenly attack? Chu Yihan embraced Su Yingxue, paying no attention to Qin Muyan. Instead, he lowered his head, gazing at the woman in his arms with a dark storm in his eyes. "Why did you come out to drink with him?" Su Yingxue's courage wavered under his intense gaze. Yet, when she spotted Han Yuwen, high and mighty, on the stairs, her anger flared. "Then why did you come out to eat with her? Didn't you say you had something to do? Your business is to accompany her. Did he break his promise to accompany this princess?" "I have something to discuss with her." Chu Yihan exuded a formidable pressure that made it difficult to breathe. "Then one have something to discuss with the Scarlet Flame King." Su Yingxue stubbornly bit her lip. "Is that so?" Chu Yihan's lips curled up dangerously. When he turned to Qin Muyan, his eyes radiated murderous intent. Qin Muyan's gaze turned icy. "9th prince, please release Miss Su. One must return the favor you just gave me." "All right." Chu Yihan let go of Su Yingxue and whispered, "Stand aside." However, Su Yingxue held onto him tightly. "Your Highness, he is the Scarlet Flame King. Attacking him without reason was your fault. You too. You can't fight. Was one wrong? Are you blaming me for him?" Chu Yihan tightened his grip on her hand, and Su Yingxue felt as if her bones were about to be crushed by his force. Chapter 426. Attacked on purpose. She didn't know where his sudden and fierce anger came from, but she was determined not to let Chu Yihan fight with Qin Muyan. She shook off Chu Yihan and stood in front of him. "Your Highness, you can't fight with the envoy. Do you feel sorry for me or him?" Chu Yihan's face turned grim. He had never seen Su Yingxue so protective of a man, not even towards her brother, Su Hao. He looked at Qin Muyan with killing intent. Qin Muyan also spoke coldly, "Miss Su, move aside. I will never show mercy to those who dare to attack me. Today, one will ask the 9th prince for advice." Su Yingxue turned around and quickly tried to persuade Qin Muyan, "Your Highness, 9th prince didn't do it on purpose. Please don't take it seriously. That palm of his was filled with killing intent. I was worried about you. If I hadn't been pushed away, how would I have survived?" Qin Muyan's eyes were red. He was also a man of great martial arts, having fought on the battlefield like Chu Yihan. His dignity could not be challenged. Ninth Prince didn't do it on purpose. Su Yingxue wanted to defend Chu Yihan. However, Chu Yihan pulled her away. It's never an accident when one make a move. He started fighting with Qin Muyan like a storm. Ordinary people did not dare to approach the battle between two top masters. Su Yingxue only saw that Chu Yihan's punches and kicks were full of lethality, and so was Qin Muyan. Moreover, he had a strong physique. Even if he was injured, he would not be defeated. They had only fought for a while when an imperial edict came from the palace, announcing Chu Yihan and Qin Muyan to enter the palace. Chu Yihan was distracted for a moment. Qin Muyan seized the opportunity and leaped into the air. He kicked Chu Yihan, and that kick was about to hurt Chu Yihan. Chu Yihan suddenly lifted his leg. The two collided in the air, creating a loud sound like fireworks exploding. Qin Muyan knelt on the ground with one knee. His right leg was still trembling. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. "You're really strong." He had no choice but to use this action to stabilize his body. Chu Yihan had received his kick in the air just now, but he stood firmly on the spot, not moving at all. The gap between the strong was now clear. Chu Yihan and Qin Muyan were brought into the palace by the imperial guards. Su Yingxue saw that the person who came this time was not Lan Ling. Even if she wanted to enter the palace, she was afraid she could not. When she turned around, Han Yuwen was nowhere to be seen on the stairs. The news of Chu Yihan and Qin Muyan fighting tonight would spread throughout Jiangdu City tomorrow. It would affect Chu Yihan's reputation, and her reputation would also be affected. However, the eldest princess of Qi State, she was a lone wolf. Su Yingxue waited at the palace gate for a day. The next day, Qin Muyan came out. Qin Muyan's eyes lit up when he saw her waiting at the palace gate. "Are you waiting for me?" "I'm fine." Su Yingxue took a deep breath. "It's good that your highness is fine. Don't be so impulsive in the future." "I'm not impulsive, but I can't bear to see others bully the woman one like. Yesterday, Chu Yihan was rude to you, so I naturally won't let him off." Qin Muyan smiled calmly. He stretched out his hand and wanted to touch Su Yingxue's head, but Su Yingxue took a step back. "Your Highness, please behave yourself at the palace gates. If there's nothing else, please return to the palace to rest. Everything is ready in the palace. Aren't you going back with me?" Qin Muyan knew that she was in charge of receiving guests and should be staying in the palace for the next few days. Chapter 427. Su Yurou has the help of an expert. Su Yingxue shook her head in refusal. She continued to stand outside the palace gate and showed no intention of resuming the conversation with Qin Muyan. Wei Is brought a horse for Qin Muyan. Although Qin Muyan wanted to bring Su Yingxue back with him, Wei Is stopped him. "Your Highness, Miss Su is not willing. There's no need to force her. No need to make it a big deal." As a trusted subordinate, Wei Is had never seen Qin Muyan so infatuated with a woman. Some things he didn't dare to mention. Qin Muyan rode away. "It's not that I can't see. I just don't want her to wait there alone." "Wait for nothing?" Could it be that the emperor of the great Cheng dynasty left the ninth prince in the palace? Wei Is was a little curious. His spies had reported that the ninth prince and the current emperor did not seem to have a very close relationship. Qin Muyan raised his eyebrows. "I'm afraid she won't be able to wait today." Chu Yihan was arrogant and aloof. Naturally, he would not apologize to his imperial brother. If it were in the great Wei dynasty, he wouldn't apologize so easily for this matter. Even his imperial brother, who truly loved him, would punish him. Moreover, this imperial brother, who seemed to have a strained relationship with Chu Yihan, wouldn't be lenient. Su Yingxue waited for 2 days, but Chu Yihan did not come out of the palace. There was no news from the residents either. Mochi assured her, "Don't worry. Your Highness will be fine. At most, he will be kept in the palace by the emperor for a few days." Su Yingxue still had many things to attend to, so she returned to the Marquise Manor first. Jilan saw her return and whispered in her ear, Miss Yurou has been invited out by the eldest princess of Qi State for 2 days. She's been attending gatherings one after another. Now, all the noble ladies in the city respect her. In other words, her status as the county lord had been restored. Sister, you've been tired for days. You've stood at the palace gate for a long time. Go back and rest. Su Yuru's affected voice sounded. She gently stroked the luxurious golden hairpin in her hair, and her overly gentle eyes carried a trace of cold mockery. Su Yingxue entered the residence with her and sized up her bejeweled appearance. She curled her lips. It seems that the eldest princess of Qi State treats you well. She placed a person who was in dire straits into a life of luxury. The eldest princess is kind and just rewarded me with some. If sister wants it, one can also give sister some. Su Yurou waved her hand, and Yuan Ruo brought over an exquisite wooden box. She picked out 2 hairpins from the box and handed them to Su Yingxue. When she handed them to Su Yingxue, they fell to the ground like willow branches that were hanging down. Yuan Ruo cried out, "Ah, this golden hairpin is too heavy. Miss is weak and dropped it. Eldest young miss won't be offended. Just pick it up and use it." Jilan was furious. What kind of person do you think eldest young miss is? Let alone 2 golden hairpins, even if there were 20 of them on the ground, our miss would not care. What the hell was that? After receiving a reward from someone else, she had the nerve to show off in front of Su Yingxue. If Su Yingxue revealed the golden hairpin from her room, she could easily evoke their envy. Is that so? But I think that sister has never been good at dressing up. If you dress up like this and receive the envoy, I'm afraid that the envoy will think that our great Cheng dynasty is a poor and remote place. Su Yurou caressed the bracelet on her wrist and mocked. Su Yurou, the eldest princess of the Qi state, called you over for 2 days, and this is all she taught you. Su Yingxue's tone was filled with disdain. The last time she appeared in the palace, she thought that Su Yurou had the help of an expert. However, looking at her posture now, even if Han Yuwen saw it and gave her a few good looks, her retarded brain still did not improve. Chapter 429. They should be showing off their affection now. Chu Yihan's cold gaze focused on her. Are you acquainted with Qin Muyan? Su Yingxue shook her head. Not really. We just met recently. Then, do you casually drink and chat with him? Now, I ask you to read a letter for me, and you refuse. Chu Yihan pulled out a bamboo tube and tossed it aside. He burned with anger, making Su Yingxue feel a twinge of pain. Approaching him, Su Yingxue held Chu Yihan's hand and explained, I treated him to a meal, and he returned the favor. That's all. That night, you said you had something important, so one had a meal with him. But your important matter was having a meal with the eldest princess. Su Yingxue pursed her lips. They were both eating, yet he threw a tantrum. Wouldn't she be suspicious? Not only was she suspicious, but she was a bit jealous. The important matter between me and her is more than just a meal. She proposed a marriage alliance between our nations to strengthen relations and power, Chu Yihan stated coldly. Marriage? Is she planning to marry into the great Cheng dynasty? Become the emperor's concubine? Su Yingxue subconsciously thought that Han Yuwen, being such a proud princess, might not be interested even if she married a prince. Only the emperor, with the highest status, might catch her eye. But then she wondered, if she wanted to marry the emperor, why invite Chu Yihan to dinner? She wants to marry you. Su Yingxue's eyes widened. Chu Yihan's eyes filled with pride. My status naturally matches hers. Chu Yihan's princess wouldn't be much lower than an empress. Han Yuwen had her eye on Chu Yihan. Did you agree? Su Yingxue became nervous. He had proposed to her just a few days ago, promising to marry her. Could it be that he wanted to marry Han Yuwen first and then take her as a concubine? Chu Yihan, I won't share a husband with anyone. Forget about marrying me. Su Yingxue was furious. A secondary consort? Chu Yihan sneered and turned away. His silence made Su Yingxue even more uneasy. So that's what you're thinking. Her status is noble, and you're tempted. Su Yingxue. Chu Yihan's voice was filled with rage. Furious, he decided to ignore her. Su Yingxue stormed out of his study, radiating a murderous aura. She even kicked over a pot of flowers in Chu Yihan's courtyard. Chu Yihan, you scoundrel. You're fickle. You marry Han Yuwen and then want me as a concubine. Su Yingxue reached the entrance of the 9th prince's mansion, grinding her teeth. She wished she could tear down the 9th prince's mansion plaque and devour it, cursing Chu Yihan 10,000 times in her heart. However, just as she was about to return to the residence in a fit of pique, she thought, why was she making things so difficult for herself? Her mother had said that if she was angry, she should make others angry. Why should she be the one to suppress her anger? She turned around and rushed back to Chu Yihan's study, kicking the door open and shouting, Chu Yihan, forget about it. In the courtyard, the old steward frowned worriedly. Did your highness and Miss Su quarrel? What should we do? Mochi was puzzled. Logically, the master should be showing off his affection for her. Haven't they both read the news in the bamboo tube? In the study, Su Yingxue pushed Chu Yihan down and straddled him. Her beautiful face was fierce as she gripped Chu Yihan's collar. Chu Yihan, let me tell you. Since you said you'd marry me, you can only marry me. Don't even think about marrying Han Yuwen and making me your concubine. You're not allowed to have such a beautiful dream. Chapter 430. Really showing off affection. It was rare for Chu Yihan to see her lose her temper like this. His furrowed brows relaxed slightly. What if I did? Su Yingxue's heart ached, and her tears were forced into her eyes. She choked on her sobs and tightened her grip. Even if you did, it wouldn't work. I'm going to shatter your beautiful dream. Unless you don't marry me, you can only marry me in this life. Is that so? Yes. Su Yingxue's sonorous and powerful voice and her bold actions made Chu Yihan smile. He flipped over and exchanged actions with Su Yingxue. His thin lips moved closer to Su Yingxue's earlobe and bit her as if punishing her. One will only marry you in this life, okay? All right. Su Yingxue pursed her lips in agreement and bit Chu Yihan's shoulder. Chu Yihan's bite was a small punishment, but her bite carried a lot of force. Chu Yihan hissed, You heartless little thing. It's fine if you wronged me, but you still bit me. Su Yingxue raised her head and said arrogantly, How am one wronged? Was your highness didn't leave me alone and have a meal with the princess of Qi state to discuss the marriage? Or did your highness never have the thought of marrying her? There are both. Su Yingxue showed Chu Yihan what it meant to be unreasonable. Chu Yihan didn't like to talk too much. He lowered his head and sealed it with a kiss. After venting his anger, he picked her up and said, Go get the bamboo tube and read the message to me. Su Yingxue humphed and picked up the bamboo tube in a good mood. She took it out and read, Me and my party have already left the border and will arrive at Jiangdu City in 15 days. Your Highness will personally verify it. From Su Chengye. Su Yingxue's eyes suddenly lit up. Su Chengye? This is Grandpa's letter. He will arrive in Jiangdu City in 15 days. She was so happy that she almost jumped up. She didn't expect her grandpa to come back so soon. Chu Yihan was sitting on the soft couch with a cold and aloof expression, but Su Yingxue could not help but pounce on him. She held his face and kissed him hard. Thank you, Your Highness. Now she knew how to thank him. Chu Yihan sneered. You're so heartless. One have a conscience. One will never misunderstand Your Highness again. As long as Your Highness brings me along when you meet the Princess of Qi State in the future, one promise that one will not lose my temper again. Su Yingxue's beautiful eyes flickered as if they were hiding in a sea of stars. Chu Yihan agreed without thinking. All right, follow me to see her in 2 days. In 2 days? Su Yingxue frowned slightly. When I was left in the palace by my imperial brother, she went to visit me and asked me to play chess. She wanted me to give her an answer. Chu Yihan said lightly. When it came to other matters, He was always cold and indifferent. Only when he faced Su Yingxue did his eyes have a fiery light. Su Yingxue tilted her head. "All right, then I'll go with your highness." There was a smile on her face, but a dark look flashed across her eyes. The eldest princess of Qi state had good intentions and good methods. Chu Yihan was in the palace, and she could also enter the palace to visit him. Moreover, she used Yurou and attacked her from all sides. This eldest princess of Qi state had her ideas to deal with her. Since she already had an idea, she couldn't let her down. Before Su Yingxue went to the palace, she even went to Sunset Garden. Seeing that Su Yurou was sleeping soundly, she reminded Jilan. If someone comes to visit and says that they want to see Su Yurou, there's no need to stop them. Just let her come. All right, but miss, if someone is observant, will they notice that something is wrong with Miss Yurou? Jilan asked with concern. Chapter 431. Qin Muyan took the initiative. Su Yingxue had a strange look on her face. "She's just a sleepyhead. What's wrong with that?" Seeing Su Yingxue's eyes glistening, Jilan laughed coquettishly. "Yes, Miss is right." Just as Su Yingxue arrived at the palace, Yuwen found her and asked about Su Yurou's situation. The eldest princess invited a socialite from Jiangdu City to attend a banquet. Yesterday, the second young Miss Su didn't show up. It can be said that she didn't give the eldest princess any face. Didn't eldest young Miss properly ask second young Miss about this matter? "No, I didn't." Su Yingxue answered very straightforwardly. "To be honest, my sister has never listened to me. Otherwise, one wouldn't have been unaware that she listens to the eldest princess. However, she has been sleeping a lot recently. If the eldest princess misses her, you can go to the Marquise Manor to visit her and see if she is willing to get up to meet the eldest princess." Yuwen frowned. She had thought that Su Yurou was unable to come out because Su Yingxue had done something to her. But now, Su Yingxue actually allowed her to visit Su Yurou? What was the meaning of this? Yuwen could not guess, but she had to make a trip to the Marquise Manor. She bowed to Su Yingxue. "In that case, one will go and visit the second young Miss on behalf of the eldest princess." Yuwen left the palace and went to the Marquise Manor. She met Chu Yihan at the entrance. She was Han Yuwen's servant and had met Chu Yihan before. However, when she bowed to Chu Yihan did not pay attention to it. Instead, he saw Su Yingxue and quickened his pace. He walked in front of her and held her hand. Su Yingxue saw that Yuwen was unhappy and even teased. "Just now, the eldest princess people bowed to your highness, but your highness ignored them." Chu Yihan looked indifferent. "What does it have to do with me?" He brought Su Yingxue to the fragrance pavilion near the perching Phoenix Palace. On the way, Qin Muyan waited for Su Yingxue for a long time. He walked up to greet her. "Miss Su, what were you busy with today?" "I can help you." Su Yingxue smiled politely and was about to say that it was nothing. Beside her, Chu Yihan exuded an icy aura. "No need." He pulled Su Yingxue behind him and blocked Qin Muyan's line of sight. He sized Qin Muyan up coldly. "If you're too free, why don't you practice martial arts and military tactics?" Qin Muyan, a man 8 feet tall, exuded a powerful aura similar to Chu Yihan. "In terms of martial arts, I may not be able to immediately defeat the 9th prince. However, when it comes to marching and fighting, if your highness is unconvinced, how about we have a friendly exchange on the battlefield?" "No." Chapter 432. The princess is shameless, but I had arranged to meet with the 9th prince today. "Why did you come?" Han Yuwen didn't even bother addressing Su Yingxue. "One wanted to seek guidance on chess from the eldest princess, so I invited Miss Su," Qin Muyan promptly explained. Su Yingxue appreciated Qin Muyan's quick defense, but beside her, Chu Yihan remained as cold as an iceberg. She felt a chill. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue up and interlocked their fingers in front of Han Yuwen. He opened his mouth and said, "I must decline the princess offer. One have already committed to someone for the position of princess, and I cannot accept your kindness." Thump. Han Yuwen's black piece fell to the ground as her face darkened. In terms of beauty, she was considered the most beautiful in Qi state, with striking features that rivaled Su Yingxue. In terms of intelligence, she held control over the court, matching Su Yingxue's capabilities. In all other aspects, Su Yingxue couldn't compare to her. Why did Chu Yihan reject her? Why did Chu Yihan reject her for Su Yingxue? Your Highness, one have always admired your wisdom. But why did you make such a decision? Were you charmed by someone seductive, affecting your decisive judgment? Han Yuwen's tone carried mockery as her sharp gaze pierced Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue chuckled. How can you be sure that your Highness' judgment isn't decisive? No one in the great Cheng dynasty has dared to question your Highness. What makes you think you have the right? In what way do you surpass your Highness? Han Yuwen's face contorted with mockery. I'm talking to your Highness? Since when does a female envoy have the right to interrupt me? Previously, Su Yingxue had used her status to suppress her maid. Now, as a princess, she wanted Su Yingxue to understand her position. What does she think she is? Han Yuwen thought. A female envoy not only can interrupt you but also knows how to play chess. One presume you must be skilled in chess, right? Su Yingxue picked up a white piece, smiling at Han Yuwen. Do you dare to play chess with me? Han Yuwen sneered. One never stoop to bullying the weak. Princess, don't be so arrogant. What if you lose to someone considered weak? Su Yingxue sat down confidently opposite Han Yuwen. Miss Su, the eldest princess chess skills are exceptional. Allow me to play on your behalf, Qin Muyan offered. No need, Chu Yihan said softly, holding Su Yingxue's hand. As soon as she sat down, both Qin Muyan and Chu Yihan rushed to protect her. Han Yuwen, who had been arrogant, felt an extra surge of anger at this sight. Such honors had always been hers. Princess, do you dare or not? Su Yingxue blinked, reassuring the two men on her sides. Don't be so sure that she would lose the moment she sat down. Su Yingxue thought. If you lose, one want the 9th prince to agree to my proposal, Han Yuwen said, picking up a chess piece. Su Yingxue, also holding a chess piece, remained composed. This is impossible. There are stakes in chess, and it might be more interesting. However, Princess is taking advantage of the situation and is shameless. Therefore, please forgive me for not agreeing to it. After all, I want to save my face. Han Yuwen was furious, breaking her chess piece in half. Su Yingxue, you will lose this game. Han Yuwen, who never liked to talk nonsense, placed her piece. She was determined to make Su Yingxue lose face. As the game began, Chu Yihan and Qin Muyan looked worried. Chapter 433, Han Yuwen, she can't afford to lose after all. They had all heard of Han Yuwen's chess skills, but not much was known about Su Yingxue's. Qin Muyan had only witnessed her medical skills, unaware of her prowess in chess. Given her martial family background, her chess skills were not expected to be outstanding. Chu Yihan also displayed a hint of concern, but as he surveyed the chessboard, his expression soon relaxed. Su Yingxue held a white piece and made the first move. Her placement of each piece was rapid. Initially, Han Yuwen thought she was playing unpredictably, but after 10 consecutive moves without a sensible position, she sneered, letting her guard down. Soon after, Su Yingxue had set up a strategic layout. All of Su Yingxue's bold moves fell into her planned trap. Han Yuwen's smug smile appeared premature. Su Yingxue, it seems you're about to lose your face. Princess, don't celebrate too early. Su Yingxue focused on the chessboard and grabbed a handful of chess pieces in her hand. She placed them one after another as if she did not need to think at all. Observing this, Han Yuwen no longer considered Su Yingxue a serious opponent. Once the game was set up, she intended to dismantle Su Yingxue's strategy. However, Su Yingxue had already secured the crucial position where Han Yuwen intended to finish the game. Occupied. Su Yingxue, you. Han Yuwen gritted her teeth. Su Yingxue seemed chaotic, but after Han Yuwen relaxed her guard, she deliberately obstructed her path. Su Yingxue tilted her head and smiled innocently. Princess, I'm done. It's your turn. Su Yingxue placed 2 consecutive pieces, seizing the position Han Yuwen had initially intended for. This not only disrupted Han Yuwen's entire plan but also swiftly turned the tables, transforming her previous advantage into a sudden disadvantage. Han Yuwen urgently repaired her vulnerabilities, but she knew it was too late. She could only try to delay. After an hour, the chessboard was nearly filled. Su Yingxue, you've lost, Han Yuwen said as the chessboard was almost full. I haven't. Su Yingxue immediately placed a white chess. She then scattered the black chess in her hand and smiled faintly. Princess and I each captured 16 pieces. Now that the board isn't full, continuing is not impossible. There's no need to continue. It's a draw. Han Yuwen waved her hand, scattering the chess pieces. The original path had been disrupted. Is the eldest princess reneging? If this continues, Su Yingxue will have a chance to win. In that case, you, eldest princess, will be the one to lose. Muyan was directly accused. Since the Scarlet Flame King understands chess so well, why not spar with me again? Han Yuwen gritted her teeth, a hint of hatred in her eyes. You don't need to threaten me. If you want to play, play. Does the princess think him afraid? Muyan was about to make a move on the chessboard. Chu Yihan pulled Su Yingxue up, looking at Han Yuwen coldly. The outcome is clear. She has defeated you. She hasn't. This chessboard wasn't full, and one destroyed it first. What right does she have to claim victory? No one can beat me. Han Yuwen was so angry that she overturned the entire chessboard. The jade chess pieces clinked as they scattered across the ground. Su Yingxue felt a bit sorry for the chess pieces, but if her opponent was not convinced, Princess, since you acknowledge your shortcomings, then admit defeat. Su Yingxue crossed her arms, a sharp glint flashing in her slightly narrowed eyes. Chapter 434. Muyan never had a chance in his lifetime. She could tell that this princess couldn't handle losing. She was too proud, not allowing herself to experience defeat. Since she had provoked her so much, the princess would not admit defeat so easily. Han Yuwen bit her lips until they bled. The scarlet on her lips was exceptionally beautiful. One will not lose and will not admit defeat. If you want me to admit defeat, you must win against me fair and square. How does one win against the princess fair and square? A faint smile appeared on Su Yingxue's face. She was visibly relaxed, but to Han Yuwen, it felt like mockery. This was unbearable. In the more than 10 years she had spent in this feudal dynasty, Han Yuwen had never been ridiculed like this. She would not allow it. The day after tomorrow, one will defeat you in front of everyone in the palace. Han Yuwen's well-maintained hand landed on the chessboard. She picked up a chess piece and said to Su Yingxue, if you have the ability, come and try. If not, I won't make things difficult for someone like you. You don't deserve to make things difficult for me. Su Yingxue laughed, astonished by the shamelessness of this princess. Su Yingxue slapped the chessboard. The day after tomorrow is the day after tomorrow. However, remember this, princess. How you lost today will be the same the day after tomorrow. To deliberately provoke Han Yuwen, she even exerted some force when her hand landed on the chessboard. Han Yuwen's chessboard, made of golden nanmu, cracked in the middle. The once intact chessboard and pieces instantly shattered on the ground, becoming worthless. Feng Qing's arm still hung there as she shouted angrily, Su Yingxue, how dare you destroy the princess chessboard? You're courting death. What's wrong? Princess, do you want me to compensate you? Su Yingxue waited patiently. Han Yuwen glared at Feng Qing and left immediately. It was easy for her to ask for a chessboard. Why did she need Su Yingxue to pay for it? The things she had paid for weren't worthy of her use. Seeing her leave in a huff, Muyan looked at Su Yingxue with admiration. I've known Princess Yuwen before. She has always been arrogant, but you've managed to anger her to this extent, Yingxue. You're truly talented. Su Yingxue smiled, wanting to thank him for his praise. You won't have the chance to know how powerful she is, Chu Yihan said coldly as he held her hand. Is that so? The 9th prince didn't need to be so domineering. As long as Yingxue has not become your 9th princess consort for a day, I will pursue her for a day. In other words, even if she had become your 9th princess consort, you wouldn't have let her down for the rest of your life. One was waiting for the day she left you. Muyan was like a wolf, full of fighting spirit. Even facing Chu Yihan, he showed no fear. He would only fight harder. These were the unyielding men of the great Wei dynasty. Once he made up his mind, he would never change it. Yingxue could feel the coldness coming from Chu Yihan's body, so oppressive that she could barely breathe. She glanced around and saw that there was no one around. She stood on her tiptoes and kissed Chu Yihan on the cheek. Your Highness, don't be like this. Her soft voice instantly softened the coldness in Chu Yihan's body. Chu Yihan turned around, cupped her face, and couldn't help but feel a surge of emotions from the bottom of his heart. Your Highness, this is the palace. Yingxue quickly kept a distance from him and whispered with a red face. It was better to do that thing in another place. I won't let him take you away. He, Muyan, won't even dream about it in this lifetime. Chu Yihan's hot breath sprayed on her ears. His voice was very soft, but it was so hot that it seemed to burn Yingxue's heart. Chapter 435, Wu Jinyan's worry. Yingxue spent a day at the Marquis Manor before Wu Jinyan hurriedly arrived. Yingxue, one heard that you're going to compete in a chess match with the eldest princess of Qi State. Do you have confidence in winning against her? Wu Jinyan was always cautious, and his current nervous demeanor suggested that she had already invested considerable effort in understanding Han Yuwen before meeting Yingxue. This person was challenging to handle. In front of Yingxue lay her mother's letter detailing her experiences during her travels to Qi State. Wu Jinyan knew that Long Shuli's legacy had greatly assisted Yingxue, but even with these resources, winning against Han Yuwen was no easy task. This matter should not be underestimated. Sister-in-law, don't worry. It's just a chess match and winning would be good. If I lose, it's not a big deal. Yingxue reassured with apparent ease. However, Wu Jinyan wasn't as optimistic. If it were just a contest between you and Princess Yuwen, I wouldn't have come looking for you. Life is not just about winning, losing is inevitable. However, Princess Yuwen has invited all the prominent ladies in Jiangdu City to the palace to witness your match. She has even generously sent many gifts. Now, not only do the ladies know about this, but officials in the court and even some restaurants have discreetly set up gambling venues to bet on the outcome of your match against Princess Yuwen. If Han Yuwen lost this time, Yingxue would undoubtedly gain more glory. However, if Yingxue lost, it would become a significant event, reaching the ears of the Empress, who held a grudge against Yingxue. Yingxue playfully knocked on the table. It hasn't even been a day, and she's already moved so swiftly and ruthlessly. This eldest princess of Qi State truly lives up to her reputation. Let's not dwell on this. Do you have a strategy in mind? Do you have to participate in this match? Wu Jinyan held her hand tightly, expressing his concern. Yingxue stopped her jesting and picked up Long Shuli's letter, waving it in front of Wu Jinyan with a confident smile. Sister-in-law, trust me. One won't lose. Wu Jinyan felt slightly reassured. Though her chess skills weren't exceptional, she wanted to lighten the mood with Yingxue, so they played a few games together. Despite focusing on the game, Yingxue had won 3 consecutive rounds. As she picked up the chess pieces, Yingxue patted Wu Jinyan's hand. Sister-in-law, are you here to comfort me or do you have something on your mind that you want me to comfort you? You're so distracted that your hands aren't listening to you. Wu Jinyan looked at his trembling hands, sighing as if her spirit had been drained. Yingxue, I have something to ask you. Sister-in-law, go ahead, Yingxue said, tilting her head. Her intuition told her this matter was related to Su Hao. Wu Jinyan bit his lip, eyes welling with bitterness. Do you think? Will your brother fall for someone else? Yingxue was astonished. Sister, Why do you ask this question? He only has you in his heart. Throughout Jiangdu City, many women sought to marry Su Hao. However, Su Hao had not shown interest in anyone in recent years. Wasn't it because he only had Wu Jinyang in his heart? But in the letter he sent back this time, there's a hint of hibiscus fragrance. Wu Jinyang retrieved a letter from her pocket, written in Su Hao's handwriting. It contained only 3 sentences. One inquired about her well-being, the second about the Marquise Manor, and the third read, "Take care, and don't miss me too much." Chapter 436. There's something wrong with Su Hao's letter. Although Su Hao was not eloquent, when writing letters, he was always meticulous. Su Yingxue had seen the letter he had written to Wu Jinyang before, and it was thick, spanning 10 pages. The letter he sent back this time only had these few sentences. Su Yingxue looked at it suspiciously. This is indeed brother's handwriting. But why? Su Yingxue knew her question was inappropriate, so she didn't ask it. She took the paper and sniffed it. There was indeed a faint fragrance on it, but she was not proficient in cosmetics and flowers, so she wasn't as skilled as Wu Jinyang. As soon as she took it, she could smell that it was the scent of hibiscus flowers. The hibiscus flower is white, beautiful, and pure. It's like a woman who has never experienced the world, as clean as a white sheet of paper. However, he knows I've never liked this hibiscus flower. Wu Jinyang lowered her head and smiled bitterly. Ever since her mother passed away, she no longer had the right to be a woman as clean as a sheet of paper. She had to know how to survive, be resourceful, observe people's expressions, and be careful in everything. Otherwise, if she had not been careful, she wouldn't have endured it and lived until today. The fragrance of Su Hao's letter was like a thorn, piercing into her heart and pulling out a piece of flesh. Sister-in-law, don't think too much. Brother is thousands of miles away from us. Perhaps there are some flowers and plants in the house. It might not be hibiscus flowers. Why are you thinking so much? Su Yingxue knew something was wrong, but she had no choice but to reassure Wu Jinyang. After all, Wu Jinyang and Su Hao were already engaged. If something happened to Su Hao in Bamboo Leaf Pass, that would be letting Wu Jinyang down. Her mother wouldn't be happy if she found out, and as her sister, she wouldn't agree either. For the sake of Su Yingxue's comfort, Wu Jinyang also forcefully suppressed the bitterness in her heart. But at the same time, a desperate thought sprouted in her heart. When Su Yingxue sent Wu Jinyang back, she saw that Thousand Jiao Pavilion wasn't as lively as usual. There were fewer customers in the shop, and the gazes of the women who came and went didn't seem very friendly. She asked Wu Jinyang if anything had happened in the shop during this period. Wu Jinyang didn't want her to worry, so she said, "It's just a small business matter. In 2 days, the store will have some new fabrics and jewelry. 111 use some more effort. I think the customers will be back soon." Su Yingxue did not say anything on the surface, but she grabbed a lady in the shop and asked. The lady was already filled with righteous indignation. When she saw Su Yingxue asking, she poured everything out. "It's all that Wu Ruofei's fault." The first time she came, the boss gave her money and sent her away. She seemed to have gotten the benefits, but the boss wasn't one to tolerate it. After she came a few times, she sent people to chase her out. However, I didn't expect that this woman who became a prostitute would not only abandon her body but also her last bit of face. She wore our Thousand Jiao Pavilion's clothes and performed a striptease in public, causing everyone to talk about it. Many madams believed that our boss and Wu Ruofei were in cahoots, so they rarely visited. Moreover, Wu Ruofei came all day long to make a fuss. Su Yingxue's eyes were suddenly filled with anger. Wu Ruofei, she came to court death. Speak of the devil. Su Yingxue had just inquired about the matter when there was a loud shout from the door, and Wu Ruofei's voice resounded. "Wu Jinyang, don't you dare to come out. Are you afraid that everyone will find out that you've harmed your sister to such an extent that you won't be able to face anyone?" Chapter 437. Su Yingxue walked out and kicked Wu Ruofei to the ground. Wu Ruofei felt her head spinning, and her heart ached so much that she almost vomited blood. Clutching her chest, she coughed and scolded, "Wu Jinyang, you bitch." Before she could finish scolding, she saw that the person in front of her was not Wu Jinyang, but Su Yingxue. She widened her eyes, and her entire body trembled. "Su Yingxue, aren't you afraid that you're with that bitch Wu Jinyang? What do one have to fear?" Su Yingxue placed her hands behind her back and looked down at her. "You keep calling her a bitch. She is the future young madam of my Marquise Manor, my sister-in-law." Wu Ruofei bit her lip angrily. "She's not worthy. You're not worthy. Wu Ruofei, do you want me to chase you away, or do you want to get lost?" Su Yingxue's eyes were sharp, like a knife stabbing into Wu Ruofei's body. Wu Ruofei had heard from her sisters in the brothel that as long as she kept bothering Wu Jinyang, she would not be able to continue her Thousand Jiao Pavilion business. However, she did not expect Su Yingxue to stand up for Wu Jinyang. At most, Wu Jinyang would get someone to chase her out, but Su Yingxue was different. Wu Ruofei clutched her chest and got up. She stood in the middle of the street. The two thin layers of gauze clothes on her body could not cover her at all. Her fair and alluring skin was slightly exposed, attracting the covetous eyes of many men on the street. "Su Yingxue, you're just like that bitch Wu Jinyang. You're also a bitch. First, you seduced the 7th prince, then the 9th prince. I heard that you even ate and drank with the Scarlet Flame King in the restaurant. Your methods are not inferior to the sisters in our brothel." Wu Ruofei smiled sinisterly. Now that she had fallen to this state, why would she still care about her face and reputation? She would only feel relieved if she could drag Su Yingxue and Wu Jinyang down with her and make them become people like her. She would be scolded by thousands of people and live without dignity. Compared to you, Wu Ruofei, you're just a lowly citizen. What right do you have to compete with us? On the surface, Su Yingxue was just mocking her. With a wave of her hand, the people from Thousand Jiao Pavilion rushed out from behind. She asked them to grab Wu Ruofei. Wu Ruofei shouted, "Su Yingxue, what are you doing? Even if I'm a slut now, you can't treat me like this. If you dare to kill me, my mother will not let you off even if she reports you to the capital prefecture. Let go of me. What kind of person is your mother? But I can see she has taught you well. At least now you know how to take advantage of your connections. Unfortunately, no one can support you now." The people of Thousand Jiao Pavilion had already been instructed by Wu Jinyang that Su Yingxue was the boss behind the scenes, so they had to listen to her. Now, the two of them immediately started to pull Wu Ruofei's clothes. "Su Yingxue, what are you doing? Get lost. Don't touch me." Wu Ruofei was so frightened that her face turned pale. Half of the rouge on her face fell off. At that moment, she looked as funny as a monkey in the mountains. "You're wearing the clothes of the Thousand Jiao Pavilion and scolding me and my sister-in-law. However, the Thousand Jiao Pavilion is not without requirements for our customers. Today, I want to see if you're wearing the clothes of the Thousand Jiao Pavilion." As Su Yingxue spoke, she even got someone to shout twice on the street to gather everyone. This Vermilion Bird Avenue was the main road of Jiangdu City. Many people and carriages passed by, and many officials and nobles were blocked. Seeing that there was a commotion here, they simply got out of the car to take a look. Chapter 438, Take Care of the Bitch. The crowd surged forward. Wu Ruofei had lost all her dignity. Her last bit of shame made her struggle fiercely with the people of Thousand Jiao Pavilion. "Let go of me. Let go of me. Su Yingxue, on what grounds do you treat me like this? Simply because you plotted against the Thousand Jiao Pavilion and tarnished its reputation." Su Yingxue waved her hand, and two delicate veils on her body were removed. She was thrown into the middle of the crowd and allowed everyone to look at her. Wu Ruofei glared hatefully at Su Yingxue. "You dare! Su Yingxue, I'll kill you." She covered her chest with her hands, attempting to reach Su Yingxue with a vengeance. However, before she could touch her, a swift kick from Su Yingxue sent her sprawling. Her alabaster body lay exposed before the crowd, bearing visible marks. The men, filled with excitement, even took the opportunity to touch her, seizing the moment. Conversely, the women scorned her. Truly shameless. How can such a person dare to create a scene on the street? Su Yingxue instructed someone to take Wu Ruofei's clothes and, in front of everyone, she loudly clarified, "Everyone, this woman previously slandered the Thousand Jiao Pavilion, falsely claiming to wear its garments and tarnishing the reputation of the Thousand Jiao Pavilion. I implore you to observe closely, her attire is undoubtedly not from the Thousand Jiao Pavilion." After saying that, she ordered someone to tear off Wu Ruofei's clothes. The poor-quality gauze tore effortlessly, requiring minimal effort. Patting her chest, Su Yingxue assured everyone, "The items from the Thousand Jiao Pavilion will never be so vulgar and inferior. 1. Su Yingxue will not spare those who seek to damage the reputation of the Thousand Jiao Pavilion." Everyone witnessed Wu Ruofei being humiliated. She desperately wanted to find a place to hide. To be stripped naked on the streets, how humiliating was that? Su Yingxue tossed the torn chiffon pieces to Wu Ruofei, exuding a commanding presence. "Didn't you claim your mother wouldn't let me go? I, Su Yingxue, will be waiting for her." Wu Ruofei's face was covered in tears. She hugged her torn clothes and tried to cover herself. Under Su Yingxue's decisive actions, she resembled an ant. Su Yingxue could easily crush her with a single finger. However, Su Yingxue chose not to do so, subjecting her to this humiliation. Even the last shred of her meager self-esteem was shattered. Wu Ruofei fled like a rat on the street. Many women hated her identity. Now that they saw Su Yingxue punishing her like this, they all clapped their hands in joy. Mrs. Liang happened to be on Vermilion Bird Street as well. Observing the scene, she exited her car and approached Su Yingxue, applauding. "Well done, Miss Su. Such an audacious and slanderous individual deserves to be taught a lesson. Let's prevent her from sullying the Thousand Jiao Pavilion's reputation. Thank you, Mrs. Liang, for standing up for justice. Is there anything you'd like to buy? Today, 111 act on behalf of the Thousand Jiao Pavilion. Anything you fancy will be at a 50% discount." Su Yingxue waved confidently, and Mrs. Liang's smile became even more radiant. She walked arm in arm with Su Yingxue into the shop. Those astute enough could discern that Su Yingxue was a formidable figure, the covert mastermind behind the Thousand Jiao Pavilion. Those who had previously slandered the Thousand Jiao Pavilion wouldn't dare to cross paths with her again. They flocked into the Thousand Jiao Pavilion, purchasing items to their liking. Business in the shop surged, and Wu Jinyan immediately started to get busy. She also heard from the people in the shop that Su Yingxue had made a move to punish Wu Ruofei, which made her feel much more relieved. Chapter 439, Why is Chu Yihan so good looking? After finishing the matters at the Thousand Jiao Pavilion, Su Yingxue returned to the Marquise Manor, and it was already quite late. Jilan mentioned that Su Dingheng eagerly waited to have dinner with her every day, but she always returned late, making Su Dingheng somewhat unhappy. Su Yingxue didn't mind at all. "Tell him he doesn't need to wait for me." Even if he waited, she wasn't willing to let her good mood for dinner be ruined because of her father. She still preferred to eat with Chu Yihan. As she thought about this, Chu Yihan had already arranged a table full of delicious food in her room. Su Yingxue smelled the fragrance of the food and saw the handsome man before her. She couldn't help but drool. "Why are you here, Your Highness? What's wrong? One can't come to your Marquise Manor if you can come to my prince's mansion." Chu Yihan raised his eyebrows, teasingly. Su Yingxue chuckled and jumped into his arms. She rubbed her head against his chest. "I'm just afraid I'll inconvenience you, Your Highness. Thank you for waiting for me to eat." Though she wasn't sure about Chu Yihan's previous schedule, it seemed that after they got together, Chu Yihan was either waiting for her to eat or accompanying her on the way to dinner. Moreover, the aroma of the food today was different from what she had eaten before. Su Yingxue looked at the dishes on the table, unfamiliar to her. She asked greedily, "Where did you hire the chef this time, Your Highness?" "The Qi State. They have a perpetual spring, and the cooking style of their palace chefs is unique. They mentioned that these dishes are suitable for couples. Chu Yihan hugged Su Yingxue, looking at the table with 6 plates and 3 dishes, obviously meant for 2 people. Both servings had identical dishes. Su Yingxue leaned into Chu Yihan's arms and picked up a small knife to poke at a piece of meat on the plate. This dish is quite novel. How do I eat this meat? And what's in that bowl? Vegetables? Why is it mixed with fruits? This is called steak. It's a whole piece, but it needs to be cut into small pieces to eat. Chu Yihan explained in detail while wrapping his arms around her. His hands were already skillfully cutting the steak for her. In the blink of an eye, Chu Yihan had cut the entire plate of steak. Then, using a peculiar fork, he fed it to her. Su Yingxue bit into it and looked puzzled. Why not use chopsticks? With me here, there's no need. Chu Yihan said as he continued to feed Su Yingxue. Su Yingxue ate 2 pieces of beef before realizing that Chu Yihan had been flirting with her. She nestled in his arms and he prepared everything for her. Admittedly, she didn't need chopsticks or even her hands. She just needed to open her mouth and eat. Chu Yihan finished feeding her, leaving behind another dish that had already gone cold. Su Yingxue wanted to call someone in to heat it before letting Chu Yihan eat it. Seeing a drop of sauce at the corner of her mouth, Chu Yihan bent down, held her face, and kissed her from the corner of her mouth until she was completely enveloped. Oh, Your Highness. Somehow, the two ended up on the soft couch. Su Yingxue moaned softly, and Chu Yihan immediately restrained himself. He stood up with his back to Su Yingxue and took a deep breath. Su Yingxue sat on the couch, staring at his back in a daze. She began to wonder why Chu Yihan was so good-looking. Chapter 440, Old General Su, come back quickly. His broad shoulders and narrow waist were a figure that fascinated all women. Nestled in his arms, she could feel every bit of explosive strength in his muscles. Even though she was only looking at his back now, she could not help but be fascinated. She wanted to return to where she was just now, remove his clothes, place her hand on his chest without any obstruction, and caress him down. That charming scene floated out unconsciously. Su Yingxue's face turned completely red. She felt that there was a fire burning on her face. Bah! What am I thinking? How can I covet your highness' body? You clearly what? Chu Yihan didn't hear what she said before, but his handsome face suddenly appeared in front of her. Their lips were so close that Su Yingxue couldn't hide her eyes. She blurted out, I want it very much, you. Perhaps it was because her face was too red that Chu Yihan was frightened. The translation is generally correct, but there are a few adjustments to improve clarity and fluency. Chu Yihan immediately turned around and left. After he left, it seemed like he remembered something and turned back to say, don't worry about tomorrow's chess game. I will accompany you. I believe you will win. Thank you, Your Highness. Before Su Yingxue could finish her sentence, Chu Yihan had already disappeared like a gust of wind. Su Yingxue covered her face and fell onto the couch. She rubbed her face regretfully. What did I just say? How could it be so obvious? Could it be that Chu Yihan noticed she was attracted to him? Ah, how embarrassing. Chu Yihan rushed back to the 9th prince's mansion and immediately mobilized the shadow guards. Mochi saw that he was a little impatient and asked, Master, what instructions do you have? The last time Chu Yihan was like this, something significant had happened in the military, and it made him emotional. But now, Chu Yihan only ordered him to transfer people. Pass on my orders. Have old General Su return to Jiangdu City as soon as possible. He wanted to propose marriage. The faster, the better. Your Highness, the old general is old. Traveling day and night, I'm afraid his body can't take it, right? Mochi considered this question. Go prepare some supplements for the old general. Mochi was speechless. Master, aren't you in a hurry? Mochi thought. Su Yingxue packed up and prepared to go to Han Yuwen's chess game appointment. Before she left, Jilan told her, Miss, second young miss is awake, and she's gone. Gone? Su Yingxue frowned. With her acupuncture technique, Yurou would not wake up for 3 days and 3 nights. Now, not only was she awake, but she was also missing. It's all my fault. Today, I was busy helping Miss dress up. When one went to check again, the guard at the entrance of Sunset Court had fallen to the ground. Second young Miss had already disappeared. Jillian's eyes were filled with self-blame. Yingxue looked down at her outfit and rubbed Jillian's head. It's okay. It's not a big deal if she goes missing. Jilan was still very worried, but Chu Yihan's carriage had already reached the entrance of the manor. The carriage of the prince's mansion was magnificent and stopped in front of the Marquise manor, attracting many people's attention. The moment Chu Yihan got out of the carriage, the women on the street burst into screams. Look, the 9th prince. Why is he here? Oh my god, 9th prince is so good looking. I'm about to faint. To be able to take a look at 9th prince in this life, it's worth it even if I die. Look, Hez walking towards Miss Su. Chu Yihan was wearing a moon-white brocade robe with golden threads today. The white jade belt wrapped around his narrow waist, making him look like the snow on the mountain peak, cold and aloof. Chapter 441, Chu Chengye's jealousy. He approached Yingxue, noticing that she was wearing a light blue brocade dress today. The hem of the dress was adorned with delicate plum blossoms, creating a beautiful and vivid scene. Around her waist, a white jade belt seemed to have been coordinated with Chu Yihan. The ethereal faces of the two collided, creating an otherworldly atmosphere that immersed people in a realm of beauty. Chu Yihan helped Yingxue into the car with a smile on his face, making him seem to be in a good mood. You look exceptionally beautiful today. Yingxue held onto his arm, her small face resting on his shoulder. She playfully teased, does that mean one wasn't beautiful in the past? Your Highness despises me. Not at all. It's just that you seldom dressed up before, not utilizing your advantages. Today, let me appreciate you as someone pleasing to oneself. Chu Yihan appeared somewhat reluctant. Yingxue pouted. Your Highness, don't you know the concept of understanding without explicitly mentioning it? Yingxue thought. Usually, she immersed herself in the clinic, making it inconvenient for her to dress up glamorously. Today, she had to compete with Han Yuwen. Could she let Han Yuwen surpass her? No way. The Chengye Palace was exceptionally lively today. The palace, initially prepared to welcome the envoy, was now filled with ladies from Jiangdu City, all invited by Han Yuwen. The entrance was bustling with carriages and horses. Noble families and ladies from all over Jiangdu City had arrived. Chu Yihan assisted Yingxue out of the carriage, appearing before everyone in complete silence. Everyone held their breath, refraining from making a sound. The two appeared too noble, like immortals descending to the mortal realm. No one dared to approach them. Chu Chengye was also among the onlookers. He had never seen the enchanting Yingxue. In the past, she rarely indulged in dressing up, and her fair face without makeup was already captivating. Now, walking beside Chu Yihan, she moved with grace and elegance, captivating everyone's attention. Chu Chengye's heart felt as if it were being gnawed by 1,000 ants. He couldn't help but question himself, why does she treat me? It's not like this. Yet, once she was beside Chu Yihan, she shone like a rising star, so beautiful that he felt she was beyond reach. He thought that he should be the man by her side. Inside the perching Phoenix Hall, Han Yuwen was already surrounded by a group of noble ladies. Her reputation was widespread, and many admired her. She called for ladies from all over Jiangdu City. Yingxue raised an eyebrow, spotting her missing sister, Yurou, standing beside Han Yuwen. Covering her face with a handkerchief, Yurou cried as if wronged. Approaching, Yingxue sighed softly, thank you, princess. Otherwise, I wouldn't know whether my sister is alive or dead after leaving home. Yurou had been putting on an act, but before she could say anything, Yingxue had already spoken. She almost couldn't help but curse. Han Yuwen warned her with a look, and she suppressed her anger, putting on a weak expression. Han Yuwen said, "Honorable Miss Su, why are you so aggressive? Even one, who has only seen the second young miss a few times, can't bear to see her being mistreated by you. Yet, you still want to force her in public. Isn't that a bit too cruel?" "Cruel? Why would the princess say that? When did I force or mistreat my sister?" Su Yingxue's eyes, fresh and moving, were filled with doubt. "Sister, there's no need to be like this. Even if not for the Marquise Manner's reputation, sister will never disclose what elder sister has done. I'll endure this bit of grievance." Su Yurou sobbed, her shoulders trembling slightly, portraying an image of extreme vulnerability. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.